IVM.
$100. That's all it takes to begin your journey with Bitcoin and Ethereum. No, really. With CoinSwitch, you can start investing in over 100 cryptocurrencies with just 100 rupees. On top of that, there are zero charges for deposits and withdrawals, so you can trade, buy, sell, however and whenever you want. All of this, plus their extremely intuitive interface, makes CoinSwitch the perfect app for beginners in the crypto space. But don't take my word for it. Just download CoinSwitch for free and try it out for yourself. If you'd like more information on cryptocurrencies, tune into A Show About Crypto with me, Rohan Joshi, my new adventure on IVM Podcasts. CoinSwitch, kuch to badlega.
Hello and welcome to episode 227 of Simblified. And today, I have no idea why we do that every time, but it's okay. And today,
I think we should tell our listeners that Simplified is the podcast which, when you wander lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills, and all at once you see a crowd, not golden daffodils, but 4 hosts of Simplified. So
wow! And if I may, Tony, that was very wordsworthless. Okay. But very nice, very nice. What Tony was referring to was that we seem to be using that as our sound check prompt every time. So in today's episode, we have somebody extremely special over here. So welcome, Naren, to the show. It's good to have you back in your bedroom after a prolonged absence of no episodes. But no, jokes apart, one of the smartest people I know, one of the funniest people I know, Tony, this is not you, Tony, in case you are hoping for a shout out over there. We have a guest who is my good friend, Berty. Hi, Berty.
Hi, Berty.
I think it's fair to say that we use the phrase, someone who wears many hats lightly, but Berty actually literally and figuratively wears many hats.
Actually, you know what? Yes, I should have brought my hat along. Hi, everyone.
One thing I have to say here, that when Chuck says you're the smartest person he knows, or you're smarter than any of us, it's not saying much. So,
I also do want to just mention that I'm getting a bit of FOMO because I'm the only guy without a Y in my name.
Oh, very nice.
Not O, Y. O I have.
Oh, very nice. Well, the Y, very interestingly, the Y came into my name because a small mix-up that my dad did. I was Bertie Ashley for a long time. Mm-hmm. And then my mom was a school teacher, and then I had to bring one of those ICSE pamphlets which said, okay, fill up the name of your kid. And I gave it to my dad. My dad was a fan of the German football team whose coach was Berty Boats, Bertybogg. And with some momentary lapse of reasoning, he put my name as Berty, although there are huge plaques with awards, everything which says Berty right in front of him. And then I forgot about it, my dad forgot, my mom forgot about it. 10th standard, marks sheets come in, ICC, it says Berty, and my mom looks at me like, why did you change the name? I'm like, I didn't change my name. They look at dad, and dad's like,
Listen, school records and trophies and all that and all is fine. Not of too much consequence in the larger picture. After this episode is over, please tell us what the name should be on the Simplified episode, because that's where it really matters.
Berty. Yes.
So was your mom a fan of PG Wodehouse then?
My grandmother. Yes, she was. Yeah. But interestingly, Bertie on Google will get many. Berty gets only 2. One of them is me. So my dad upped my SEO when I was in 8th standard.
So far, visionary.
Not a phrase I ever expected you to. I mean, I expected you to say many things today, but my dad upped my SEO was not one of them. Wonderful.
But when you search for Berty Ashley, I'm sure Google says, "Did you mean Ashley Berty?" Right? So
now it does. I know.
Who is the gentleman? I remember seeing him
not gentleman, lady who won the Australian Open. And
Ashley. ASHLE.
Oh, nice. She's played cricket as well. Women's BBL, and also was a tennis star. So
Berty.
Sorry, Berty.
It's okay. So, Berty, there are many topics that we could discuss.
Yes, Chuck. Before you start, we actually didn't tell the listeners what all Berty does. I think it's
pertinent
to the discussion.
That's I was about to get into that. So, I mean, there are lots of topics that we could talk to Berty about. And in fact, Berty and I have done Zoom sessions many times on various aspects of rock music and things like that. So Berty is, okay, here is what I know, and I haven't read your CV and things like that. You are a quizzer. You are a quiz master. So that's one. He's
an author of many quiz books.
Yeah. And the article on Sunday on the Hindu, what makes this day important in history and all that. So that's one. That's a quizzing side of you.
Yep. Yeah, then and also a quiz on Sunday, right? Quiz on Sunday.
Yeah,
that's the article.
Oh, it's the same. That's the article.
Yeah.
So that's the quizzing side of Berty, 30% taken care of over there. And then there is a musical side of Berty. He is a fount of musical knowledge, and he is a big music fan. His house in Madurai is basically like one vinyl warehouse, along with all sorts of instruments ranging from a sitar all the way to a 7-string guitar.
12-string, but yes, I have a sound string also.
Fair enough. All right.
If you're going across the scheme, then like 7, 12.
Fair. All right. So that's the musical side of you. And by the way, Berty can have a 5-hour-long discussion on any artist ranging from, I am assuming, Pink Floyd to Hari Prasad Chaurasia.
Oh, absolutely. Nothing but
there we go. See, there we go. So,
let's start with our one of.
and then there is the stuff that you do. That and then of course you're a huge F1 fan, which to me is the only fault that you have. But let us not argue about that because
we can have one episode on that. 3 of us bashing F1 and you defending it.
So it's
that's
okay.
One of the very very rare things that Akila will join you on. Will say yes, I.
So then of course there is a work itself that you do, which is what we are going to talk about for the rest of the episode. You are a scientist at the end of the day. But have I missed out on anything? Like, has this pie chart missed anything? And please don't say some obscure thing like you're a toothpaste expert or something like that. So, like, is there something that you actually like?
Well, in the pandemic, pandemic, I've discovered something. Apparently, I'm a good teacher for the apartment kids, so I take guitar classes.
Oh.
And in the process, I've become a very interesting midway point between all the parents and the kids. So I get all the gossip from the parents about other parents. I get all the gossip from the kids about other kids. In the entire apartment complex, guess who knows all the tea? Me.
Wow. These are some very, very niche spaces that you work in, Berty, and I still think that you would have been a great lobbyist. There's this old R.K. Lakshman cartoon I remember, Naren, where this politician is coming to a bunch of small school kids and asking them, what do you want to be when you grow up? Somebody saying teacher, painter, pilot, and one of them, I want to be a middleman. And I remember finding that extremely funny at that point of time. Anyway, so let us actually go on to, Berty, you have a very interesting, sort of set of interests and things that you do and stuff. And we'll get to how you balance all that later. But tell us about the work you do, man. What is it? It's very interesting. Like the first time I heard about this, and keep in mind, and also you must keep in mind that my friend circle, most of us make PPTs for a living, right? So to see somebody who actually does things that actually makes a difference in the world is kind of rare. So please tell us, what is it that you do? And how you got into it.
Before I do that, I have to say you guys do make a lot of difference, and especially Chuck, your PPTs have made a difference. Because if at any point of time, if your PPT has led to something happening at, let's say, NH7, that's made a lot of difference to me.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
No, because this is where I'm going. So I'm a molecular biologist, right?
Okay.
So I work with DNA and RNA. It's not a thing you can do as a group. It's like I sit with the microscope or sit with the biosafety level container or something, or I have an intern or a colleague. That's about it. And it's long hours of a lot of statistics and all that kind of stuff. The only thing that gives me a lot of comfort is the music that I listen to, which is why I have about 4 or 5 headphones. Right. So if anything that you do has led to me finding a new musician or to a technology that I use, hey, you made a difference to my world. So thank you guys.
Wow. So, Berty, adding to your list of, adding to the pie chart, motivational speaker, I think.
Yeah.
Definitely.
No, and the ability to find some good in
everything.
Every calling, however low, is you should actually become national leader or something like that, or secretary.
Why are you disparaging him now?
I really, this is like very mean thing to say. Sorry,
Bertie, you said you have like 4 or 5 headphones. I was just thinking, how many headphones would Ravana need to listen to music?
Oh, interesting. Hey,
wouldn't point.
Okay, he has like 10 pairs of heads, right? So that's
10 heads, not 10 pairs of heads. That makes
but all 10 brains also have their own listening system, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
They're separate brains? Okay, cool.
So like 5.1, he can have 10.1 input.
10.5.
But can he process like different music in each head?
Each one is a different brain, right? So the brain by itself processes as one.
But so if he listens to the same song with 10 heads, it's basically a concert.
Like, the only thing we can do, which I would love to do as an experiment, is that have him listen to the same song, but each one is slightly different in tempo. Okay. Like one is at 120 BPM, another is at 110 BPM, and then figure out at what BPM his legs or dance.
Oh.
Okay.
But he has only 2 legs.
Yeah, exactly.
So does he dance to the 120 BPM track which is on the leftmost head, or the 110 BPM track which is on the right?
Or is it like an average of all the BPMs? And I feel, with all due respect to your scientific knowledge, Bertie, I feel that if Ravana were to show up in the world, I don't think making a tap dance would be among the list of priorities right away.
I can get a sponsor. Okay. Headphones on. Guys, I need 10 headphones.
Headphones are sponsors the experiment with Ravana. Okay, let us go on. It's been about 20 minutes where we've been talking about everything except what you do. I know you're very modest, but please spend the next 5 minutes telling us what you actually do, how you got into it, and all that. I know it's a fascinating story.
I am a molecular geneticist. So I play around with really small things like DNA and RNA. So basically everything in our life, everything that we turn out to be, everything that we are, is pretty much, written in our DNA, right? So we know because of great work, as one of the greatest people said, standing on the shoulder of giants, not Oasis, but Isaac Newton, is that Mendel, Darwin, and all these people said that there is a genetic reason as to why the human civilization has developed because of what we learned and what we imbibed from the people before us. And that's the information that's written in DNA and RNA. So the thing is, when information travels from one, let's say, code to another, as it is, as it moves along, if it's well established and in a proper manner, then everything's good. Right? And that is a proper genetic heritage. Sometimes there's a small mistake. There's a mutation. That's what we call it. Okay, just one letter in code. Like, for example, there are 26 alphabets and numbers are infinite. And so when you're writing code in a computer, the number of chances that could go wrong are much. But in DNA, there's only 4: A, T, G, and C. And it's only multiple combinations of this which make up everything that we are. But even in that, sometimes there is a tiny mutation where a T becomes a G or an A becomes a C or something of that sort. What that leads to is a complete breakdown of machinery in which a protein is formed. Now, protein is basically a thing that carries out all the functions. Right? If the DNA and RNA are the ones that have the information, the protein is basically the machinery that does everything else. So what I do, or what I used to do before my current job, was to study this process as to how the DNA RNA becomes that protein. What is the process that goes through it? That's what's called molecular biology, studying the molecules at that level. What happened in 2015 was I was working on stem cells, and when a friend of mine called me and said, listen, there's this project going on. It's to do with rare diseases. And he had to go to Australia in 2 months. And he said, I needed someone to take care of the cells right now. Please, I know you're the only one who can do it that well. I'll give you a nice place to work with, and I will allow you to wear headphones at work, which you're percent off. 100%. This is true. Okay, Dr. Arun Shastri, he said, okay, I know about your working conditions right now. You're working in a government institution. They won't allow you to wear headphones. They won't allow you to wear t-shirts. Okay. In my lab, you join, you can wear whatever t-shirt you want.
Very weird perks, but all right.
Yeah, I didn't ask about the money. That's okay, said, you can wear headphones, you can listen to music.
There's a lesson here for all HR managers. Find out what a passion.
Know the person, know the employee. So that's how I got in. And what I got in at that time was to do with rare disease called Duchenne muscular dystrophy or DMD. Now, the organization that I'm part of is called DART, which sounds pretty nice. DART. The full form is Dystrophy Annihilation Research Trust.
Which is the coolest name for a company. Yeah,
Wow. We are one of the very few organizations that has the word annihilation in it, which is not a death metal band.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, just the first two words is definitely a band somewhere.
Yeah, dystrophy annihilation. Yo, bro. That's exactly. So it becomes DART. So dystrophy is the disease that's caused by mutation, which leads to the protein breaking down. In this case, dystrophin. So all of you muscular gentlemen and also the wonderful people who are listening, if you feel your muscles over here, they are like, you feel some resistance. That's because of the dystrophin protein doing its job. In these kids, what happens is the dystrophin protein is not able to be that very strong protein it is. It starts becoming like jelly and eventually loses its shape. And what that leads to is your muscles in your body slowly losing their ability to handle stress. Now, for a child, when a child is like 3 or 4, that's not a big problem. You just get up slower. You don't get tired and stuff like that. But at the age of 8 or 9, it becomes a little more obvious. You're not able to walk and all. They start using crutches. And by the age of 12 or 13, your calf muscles and your thigh muscles deteriorate and you start have to use a wheelchair. By the age of 19 or 20, two very important parts of your body, their muscles start going. One is your heart, another is your lungs. And that's when it gets fatal. So at the age of 24, 25, either the heart or the lung, one of them gives up first. So it's a fatal disease. And that is the cause of Duchenne muscular dystrophy, which is all because of one tiny mutation in a billion code sequence. Right. Now, till 2008, 2009, there was no known way to counter this. If you have a child who has DMD, the doctor will say, sorry, ma'am, sorry, sir, your son is going to die. By the way, it's in the X chromosome. So that means only boys suffer from it. Girls don't. Right? Because it's an X chromosome. Boys have an X and a Y. Right? So if something wrong with the X chromosome, they don't have a backup. So they suffer from it. Girls have 2 X chromosomes. So if something's wrong here, the other one makes up for it. So these boys, when they're born, they have trouble. You ask the doctor and the physiotherapist will be like, give massage, take care of him. But sorry, it's fatal. We can't do anything. But in 2009, 2 researchers, one in Australia and one in the Netherlands, discovered some technology called Exon Skipping. Now, this is the interesting bit. Now, in DNA, there's, even if you go further into it, into chromosomes and nucleus and all the way in, there are small things called exons and introns. So your cell, the genetic information is written as exons and introns. Now, when a missionary reads this, it produces dystrophin. Just imagine that it's like one small, one of those satellite things which sit on a track, reads a track. At the end of it, reading the information on the track, it produces a protein. Now, to stop it from doing all the time, which is what cancer is, the body has a built-in mechanism where it has introns between the exons. So it lands on the track, reads, there's an intron. Okay, fine. So that means this is not supposed to be read. The thing goes off. Whenever a body needs a protein to be produced, it takes away the introns, puts all the exons together, and it reads, and at the end you have a protein. Now, for dystrophin protein, you have a track that is 79 exons long, which is very interestingly the longest in the body. For everything you have, there are a number of like 13 or 14 or 20 exons. For dystrophin, which is a very important protein, you have 79. Now, what happens is in the 79 different exons, somewhere one gets disfigured or gets cut out or even duplicated, the machinery comes and gets stuck. And so it's not able to produce the dystrophin. What these 2 people discovered was, so imagine this is a track. It's a jigsaw puzzle of 79 individual pieces. It's a linear jigsaw puzzle, right? And your machinery that reads it gets stuck here. These guys realized, what if I take out this traffic jam? Whatever, I take it out. Okay. And then attach these 2 and make a shorter version of it. So what happens is now, instead of 79, it's only 77 exons long, but it is completed puzzle, right? So the whole thing reads and produces a less quantity or a less stable form of dystrophin, but at least something. Now, earlier, these kids were getting nothing. Now there is something. So what we are doing is we are not stopping the disease, we're not curing the disease, but we are slowing down the process of the disease. So what happens is these kids who would have passed away at the age of 21 or 22 now live a longer life, probably up to 30 or 32, thereby giving them more quality of life and extending the life to, for example, to a longer period where we know we might find something else in the future which will be of use to them. So that's what we do. And here's the interesting part. Every single kid has a different mutation because everybody's gene is different. Everybody's DNA is different. So we make personalized, customized medicine. Every single medicine is for a kid, which obviously, because then that's the thing, right? People ask like, listen, you say you're the only ones in, like right now, we are the only ones in India who are doing it. We are the only ones who have the clinical trials going on. So people are like, why aren't pharmas doing it? Why aren't companies doing it? Why does this idiot in Bangalore have to do it? The reason is customized medicine is extremely expensive. You make, like, for example, let's say I have to make something for Chuck. Okay, let's say Chuck says, I want to grow an afro, right? And I make a genetic medicine to make that happen. But the thing is, I spend millions of dollars in research trying to figure out, especially for Chuck, because it works only on Chuck. I can't sell it to anybody else. And I'm not going to sell it to Chuck for $2 million because he's not going to give me $2 million, right? So there's no money in this at all, making personalized medicine. So big companies don't do it because there's no money in it. And that's why we had to step in and do this, and where we make personalized medicine for every single kid. And that is how we, as a company, Dystrophy Analyst and Research Trust, brought in personalized medicine to India. In 2019, we became the first in the country to do clinical trials on one kid.
Wow.
So are you
Hard
saying
to follow
this
that up.
linear jigsaw is different for each kid? Where the
No, the jigsaw is the same.
Okay.
The mutation is different. Now there are 79, right? Each exon, okay, has these ATGC, whatever, right? For some kid, the T will become an A. For some kid, a G will become a C. For some kids, what happens is, for example, the kid that we in 2019, the kid we have clinical trial is between 50 and 51, there was an issue. So the missionary used to get stuck exactly at 50. It didn't go forward. So what we did was we took out 50 and 51, and 49 and 52 we joined together. Okay, so that it reads like that. Now there's another kid which there are hundreds of kids we have, but for example, we have another kid, patient number 2, who's 48 is malfunctioning. So we have to take off 47 and 48 because 48 and 47, the place where they meet is malfunctioning. So then 46, drive it all the way up to 48, put it together, and then continue it. Yeah. So that's what we do.
Wow. I mean, I don't know what to follow that up with. So I'm going to leave this to Naren, who looks equally flabbergasted.
Yeah,
Wait,
I'll
tell you what I do. What's my, like, I don't do everything in this, obviously. Okay. So my job is in molecular biologist is to make sure that every kid we do the experiment or not experiment, the therapy on, it doesn't backfire. Okay. Now here's the thing. These kids already have less muscles, right? We're not going to, and we can't use them as guinea pigs. It's unethical, it's illegal, so we can't do that. We are making a medicine for them, but how do we make sure that it's the right medicine and it's not doing something weird? So that's where in vitro biologists come. Now, in vitro is Latin for inside glass. In vivo is inside a body, in vitro is glass. So what I do is I take a small sample of skin from these kids, grow it in a petri dish, and then convince the skin cells by using magic enzymes that they are muscles. And the skin cells are like, dude, we are muscles. We can do it. And the skin cells become muscles. And now we're like, aha, you're muscles. Now that means I can work on them as muscles. So now I have a whole petri dish of cells which are muscle cells, although they started off as skin cells, transitioning LGBTQ. So the muscle cells, then we can put the small drugs in, and then we can see it. Okay, this is the amount of thing it works for this kid. This is what happens for now. And then we do a test, and finally we're like, okay, guess what? It works on the muscle cells of this kid. That means when escalated to a bigger amount, it would work on the kid as well. So that's where my specialty lies, to make sure that in vitro it works well.
This convincing skins that their muscles is basically similar to what Dhoni does with CSK. So I think that's the closest analogy I give.
You are
Well
muscles.
done.
You can do it.
Well done.
Yeah.
I don't know how to follow up questions.
Yeah, no, so many
Oh, by the way,
fascinating. The meta question, okay? For specifics, of course, we can just go on discussing specifics all day and not because this is something which has really evolved very rapidly in the last few years, I think. So
absolutely. Yeah.
you literally wouldn't have you're inventing techniques all the time. I'm sure there are some techniques you have developed which probably either don't exist anywhere else, or if they do, they've been parallelly discovered.
We have 2 patent pendings right now, pending patents, and then we have written a couple of papers. Yes, that is true.
The meta question is how can I know one he is no more. I know one child who had muscular dystrophy. I don't know if it was the same thing, who passed away in I think 2007 at the age of 20 or 21, and it was heartbreaking, right? So I know the family was so it's sad. I mean, it's something even looking from outside. I wasn't very close to them. I knew them, and it was terrible. So there must be many such diseases, which of course were hopeless in the past, but now these techniques make it possible to either improve the quality of life or just cure them altogether out. How can we have many more? Yours is probably the only institute in India. So you can handle maybe a couple of hundred children. If you are to handle maybe 100,000 children, you would need many more such facilities. How do you think that would happen, if that would happen?
Okay, thank you. Interestingly, so that's what brings us to monogenic disorders. So the reason that we are able to do this because DMD is a monogenic disorder. A monogenic is a single mutation which causes a problem. Okay, as long as there's a single mutation, right now we can deal with it. Theoretically, yes, we could deal with other things, but there are too many hypotheticals there. So monogenic disorder. So any monogenic disorder we can deal with. That's the thing. Now, as for number of children, here's the thing. Thanks to the government of Karnataka, we were able to also start up. How do you say? Start a startup?
Start a startup, yeah.
So we also started up a separate entity called Hanujan Therapeutics, which allowed us to open up our technology for commercial use. That's also us. It's on the site, and it's co-run by the government of Karnataka. So the organization that I work with, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention this, DART was started by parents and is run by parents, 10 parents of kids who have this disease. So these parents, technically, when they discovered that the kids had dystrophic DMD, they went around the world and said, can anybody do something? Everybody was like, no, we have to take care of our kids first. If you're in the US kids get it. If you're in the UK, the US kids. So they came back to India and said, listen, people all over the world are doing something. We need to do something. So they came together and started this organization. So I don't belong to it's a non-profit organization, but it's not run by a company. It's run by 10 parents.
So they fund the entire research?
It was I can't believe I'm using this. It's bootstrapped by the parents. Yeah, the first 6.8 crores came from parents selling their houses, selling of the jewelry, running marathons, doing all the kind of stuff to bootstrap the first foundation. After that, I came in, I started writing grants, and we got the government, and now we are 3x that amount thanks to the grants. But it was started by parents. Still till today, my CEO his kid is a DMD, and pretty much 60% of our the people who decide what we do, they're all parents of children who have DMD.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now that is skin in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So when in 2018 we became SIRO, which is Scientific and Industrial Research Organization, which is a certificate given by the government of India, DSIR, Department of Scientific and Industrial Research. We are the only, according to the best of my knowledge, which for a quizzer is a vast amount of knowledge, are the only parent-run organization in the country to have that tag. You'll see the tag everywhere. Biocon and big companies and all. But we are the only parent-run organization to have.
Amazing.
It's a different definition of parent company.
Yeah, technically parent company. So as Shania asked, so the thing is we can work with any monogenic disorder. Okay. Now the thing is, right now we can deal with up to 300 kids, right? Like we have the capacity. So the thing is the part where you have to customize the way the molecule acts, that is in step 4 or 5. Up to step 4, you can actually produce things on a large scale, right? All the consumables, I think you can produce. So that's where you start to, at least, cut down the costs. But at the part where you have to customize, there's no way you can do anything about it. That's where the cost factor comes in. Now, that's the reason that this particular drug that we are working on is available in the US. Okay, it is available in the US. And there, if your kid is 60 kgs, okay, 60 kgs, for 1 year, you have to pay $300,000.
Wow.
That's the cost of the drug in the US.
Wow.
We have brought it down to 6 lakhs in India. Now compared to $300,000, 6 lakh is nothing. But in India, 6 lakhs is huge. And a lot of our parents are not in the financial means to do that, right? So we want to make it even more less. But the problem is in other places, the more you produce, the less is your cost. Yeah. But in this case, we can't do that because we are at the least amount. So currently, what we are trying to figure out is some way of making sure that the process is as inexpensive as possible. But all said and done, how many ever diseases you take, that bit at which the customization comes, that's where the money part plays a huge role. And like you said, if you had different types of facilities which all cater different, like for example, we work with neuromuscular disorders. There's a particular type of diabetes called MODY, maturity onset diabetes in young, which is because of a mutation in either HNF4 alpha or the HNF1 alpha gene. So now we don't deal with diabetes, but if somebody wants to deal with that, they can start it. We can pass on the technology, we can do this, and they can work on that. But we don't have the bandwidth or the thing to work on that. But this is a future that hopefully in about 10 years, in a decade, India is ready for. We were responsible, like for example, fun story.
No, yeah, sorry. Just before we get to it, I think we need to digest this. Let's take a break and catch you on the other side with Berty's fun story and much more.
Intel Vpro provides the complete manageability tools to detect, repair, and protect your devices remotely so your workforce can keep doing what they do best, wherever they are working from. Today, as most employees and IT teams no longer work under the same roof, fixing glitchy PCs and proactively managing the PC fleet has become increasingly difficult. The Intel Vpro platform addresses these problems. With its Intel Active Management technology, Vpro enables IT to keep mission-critical resources running by establishing a secure connection between IT and an Intel Vpro platform-based PC. In the event of a cyber attack, Intel AMT lets IT remotely manage and repair systems simultaneously, even if they are dispersed across multiple locations. PCs can be recovered quickly wherever they may be. Plus, the Intel Endpoint Management Assistant enables cloud-based manageability using simple web-based tools to connect with and remediate any Intel Vpro platform-based PC. Both these tools provide better manageability and faster response time, resulting in substantial device management support, cost savings, and fewer help desk tickets, which is always a good thing. So visit intel.in/IT heroes to know more. Intel Vpro, built for business.
Welcome back to Simblified, where we are discussing Dart with Berty and how they always hit the bullseye.
we are not discussing as much as just listening with jaws open as Berty tells us of what he's doing. So I'm going to mute myself and just assume that I'm listening to Berty's podcast. So Berty, please.
And I must say, you are a natural teacher, and I can see why all the
apartment kids.
Not just apartment kids. If you taught like science,
I want to learn under
growing up. I want to
very interestingly, I do take classes, but the thing
there is a Marathi humorist no more now named P.L. Deshpande. So P.L. Deshpande once said, Pula. So he said that someone who can take a 50-minute discussion and put it down in 10 lines is a journalist. and someone who can take 10 lines of discussion and pump it up into a 50-minute lecture is a professor. So Berty is
halfway there.
You're both actually. You sort of squished down. Really, I'm like, part of me is jumping up and down because I'm going to be the coolest guy at all parties. I'm going to offhand talk about monogenic diseases,
customized medicine.
And Naren, somebody who can take no content at all and turn it into 50 minutes is a podcaster. On that Berty,
by the way, yes, I do. I mean, I still do take classes. But due to the pandemic, I have stopped. But
listen, I would learn the alphabet from you.
Wait, that's where Chuck. There's something else which I do. I also like making PPTs, but compared to the other PPTs that the teachers make, mine is full of memes. Okay, and it's full of memes, which is very current. Okay, and there are times when couple of professors are sitting there and students are sitting there, and I put up something and the professors have no idea what it's about. No idea. There's some and yesterday we were talking about this. Okay, how I can put up a picture. Okay, for example, one does not cross into modern, one does not walk into modern. No, that
Why not simply walk into modern?
So I put up that picture like of Sean Bean and put up a small thing about what is a semi-permeable membrane. Okay, so like for example, a molecule has to put out energy to walk in. So I put that and I put ATP next to it. Every student got it immediately, and they laughed. The professors were like, "Is that a scientist? Is that, what? Okay, and no, everybody got it. Okay, and then they're like, "Yo, that's it." Then when I use those memes, it becomes much more engaging for students, and they get it. And the teachers don't, and there's this big generation gap. So that's a fun part.
A way to make
you should, I mean, at least create those textbooks, man. I mean, I want it for my daughter for sure.
Actually, the thing is this: I do believe that the age of the textbook has gone. I mean, textbooks are required, but not as a primary. It's more like a repository of information than a disseminator of knowledge or teacher of knowledge. It is basically, audio-visual, which is. I am telling you, I am a mechanical engineer. I spent all my life dealing with differential equations and, all kinds of transform, Laplace transform, Fourier transform, without really knowing what a Laplace really did, till I saw YouTube videos which graphically explained them. And then I said, oh, wow, this is what it is. And that's the beauty, right? So now I have a great mental picture. Now it's a tool for me because I don't know. I have all respect for Laplace, who in the 17th century figured it out without YouTube and everything. And
he kind of invented the thing, Naren. That's slightly different also, but point made.
By the way, if I may quickly ask the three of you, where do you think we got the word meme from?
I know.
Richard Dawkins thingy, no?
Yes, the selfish gene, 1976, Richard Dawkins. So if you guys use the word meme, thank us, evolutionary biologists. Okay, you're responsible for that. Yeah,
they're cooler than you thought. Okay, but
actually, you are into real memetics as well.
Exactly. Yeah, that is true. Oh yeah, the story which I had for you guys. So when we first started Dart, and when I came in, I was doing some work, and I was also the grant writer. Firstly, because apparently my English was good for writing, so they made me grant writer. But then I realized I had the ability to actually write grants. So then I wrote a grant, and we actually got through. And the government was like, "Excellent! You're going to work on rare diseases. You're working on DMT. This sounds cool. How much money you want? X lakhs." They're like, "Okay, cool. We're going to set up a." So the government of India, CSIR, ICMR, they have a very specific way. They have a set panel, 12 people who are experts in your line of work, decide whether your project is good enough, is useful, and is worth the Indian government putting the money in, which makes sense, right? The Indian government is not going to give up money to everybody and anybody who writes a project. So we submitted, and then we waited, and they were like, listen, we have an issue. So here's the thing. First of all, they couldn't find 12 experts in DMD in India. Right? Then they said, okay, 12 is an arbitrary number, make it 8. And they found 8 people. But 6 of the experts who know everything about it were already scientific advisors with us. So you have conflict of interest. So they can't be on the board because they are part of our board. So they had only 2 people. And those 2 people already knew us and they were like, yeah, we already know them. They're doing a great work. We can't help you. So technically, they couldn't find people who were not invested in us who could say, yes, give them the money. So that became a long discussion. And finally, they did something and said, okay, even if they are conflict of interest, they are experts. So we'll just take for granted that they're doing it in the right sense and all the kind. And finally, they said yes. Now, then it escalated to the second part. Now I got the grant, which means I get the money to work on it. So that leads to me doing a clinical trial. Now, till 2016, right? India has had a very, very strict clinical trial section. If you make a drug, if you make a medicine, clinical trial phase 1, you give to at least 200 different people who have the disease. You give the same medicine to 200 people who don't have the disease. Those who have the disease should feel better, at least not all, maximum amount of it should feel better. Those who don't have the disease, nothing should happen to them, right? That's the plan. That's how any medicine you make in the world, that's what it has to. Clinical trials, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, and phase 5. Phase 4 and 2, 3, that's it. 4 and 5 is different. Anyway, that by itself has a problem. We said, get 200, we can't even give to 2 people because each person is different. Second part, I can't give it to a normal person because mine makes a change in the DNA. So if a normal person is there and I give him that medicine, it will take out that exon and it will put DMD into that person.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it will be a disaster. Yeah.
Exactly. So we can't do that. They were like, but the rules. I'm like, yeah. So they're like, well, we can't change it because all of this is not like, write and work. Now it's all, on the computer. You can just go online. So when you say online in phase 1, you have to select the number of 200 participants. And I feel like, I can't. So there was physically no way to start the clinical trials for us because it doesn't exist. So for probably 2 years, me, Arun, and our CEO, we kept traveling to Delhi, talking to people, talking to experts, and trying to convince them that clinical trials, like what you said, we can't do it because it's impossible. Finally, in 2017, Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, who at that time was head of ICMR, now is the chief scientist of WHO, she came down, she met us, and she was like, guys, I know what you want, I know what you mean, but we need to make a change at the basic level. So then they sat in, and then in 2017, they finally got everybody together and said, okay, in the case of genetic therapy, we will say that you can do something called a investigator-led trial, which means you can use it on one person, on only one person only, and then give us 2 years of data. And that led us to saying, oh, finally we can do it. And that opened up the clinical trial thing to anybody who does genetic therapy in India in the future. So till then, nobody had ever tried it. And
it's a huge breakthrough. Yeah. And, hats off to even the bureaucrats who got this thing done because it's not easy. It's not all easy to get this done.
Absolutely not at all.
So you basically made a change at the molecular level. There.
Yes, change at the molecular level. Absolutely. Change the DNA of the clinical trial situation in India.
Amazing. But what I wanted to ask you was, you said then, part of what you're responsible for is to make sure that, the child doesn't get worse.
Yeah.
How do you, how do you figure that out before administering the
okay, so here's
therapy?
the thing. So right now, all my data is based on one kid who we started clinical trials in 2019.
Wow.
Okay, so it's all because so far we have permission for more, but we haven't started the clinical trials yet. So only on one kid. The thing is this: first of all, again, clinical trials, preclinical trials is what is called, is done on 2 things. One is on the cell, right? We do toxicity tests. They take all his muscles. If they have 1 million cells, and we add a little bit of drugs, none of the cells should die. Okay, so that's called a toxicity. Then we have an increased dosage toxicity test. Okay, if you give 5 milligram per kg of the kid, what is it? Then we give 10 milligram, then 100. So we keep upping up the dosage till something bad happens. Okay, and then we know that, okay, the toxicity till this level, and it was a huge amount. Like for a 60 kg kid, you have to give about 4 kg of medicine or something like that. So that was okay, that's fine. But you have to prove that at that point.
So what is therapeutic and what is fatal? So you
exactly escalated dose. It's called an escalated dose, and like that we have to do. And other than cell work, we also have to do animal studies. We had to genetically make MDX mice, which are mice which have DMD. And very interestingly, zebrafish. which India does not right now recognize, but everybody else in the world recognizes. Zebrafish, which are basically from the Himalayan springs, are the only fish in the world which has DMD.
Wow.
And the interesting thing is, unlike other animals, which, for example, golden retrievers also get DMD. Okay, but the poor things is that they can't walk and they go through the usual thing, and the life also gets shortened. And we don't want to, floofs. Who wants to hurt floofs? But the zebrafish, if they have DMD, there's a small crink in that tail. That's it. It does not affect the swimming. It does not. It's misshapen tail, but it's DMD. It's literally the same dystrophin protein. And the zebrafish's life is about 2 or 3 months. So we can do experiments on that. So that's how we proved that this works. And we have different animal studies and all this. And finally, with the permission of the ICMR and the DCGI, and the kid became 18 years old. So he became a major. His mom, dad, his grandpa, grandmother, everybody signed. And finally, we got the kid. And we do follow 3 things. One is the heart, then the lungs, and his dystrophin levels in the blood. So far, what we thought or what we expected was his cardiac efficiency and his pulmonary efficacy was dropping slowly to the age of 10 or 12. We thought it would stop, which is all we wanted. If something is going bad, all we wanted is to stop. What we did not realize, and we're very happy to show to ICMR and now to tell everybody, is over the last 12 months or 18 months, we have seen it increase by 0.5%.
Wow.
So there is an increase, which we did not want to think about and all that kind of stuff, but it is there. So you have a positive thing. And psychologically also there is this effect. The kid himself is feeling more vibrant. He's saying, I can hold a pen for longer. I can roll around in my sleep and all. But as a scientist, I can't take that because it's also there that he didn't try it before. Maybe now he feels he can do it, so he's doing it more.
Yeah.
But psychologically, it makes him feel that he's doing better as well. So we are seeing empirical evidence of him getting better for his particular condition. So that getting better is 0.5%. Okay, it's not a big thing. He's not going to walk. His heart is not going to be 100%. We wanted to stop it from going to 0. We managed to get from 50 to 50.5, which is a huge thing for us. So that's where we are.
Amazing.
I'm still speechless. I have nothing to.
Yeah,
I'm looking at my Audacity recording, and there's nothing. Like it's like one flat line throughout. Yeah. And Vinay must be like our producer must be finally thinking like, fuck, we finally managed to get a guest that's managed to shut this loudmouth up. So Berty,
no, but simplified host being simplified host, we can talk for an hour on how speechless we are. So
But Berty, so how is this administered on the kid? Like, what's the process of that?
There are different versions, but ours we figured out the best way is called a slow IV. So what we get is a small white powder, and it gets dissolved in saline, and then it's run into your IV for 30 to 40 minutes once in 2 weeks. That's what's going on for that kid, right? I mean, for a year, that's what happened. It's a very slow IV. So the thing is this, there are 6 billion, 7 billion cells in your body, right? Oh, yeah. So every cell in your body has the same DNA. We need to change it, right? Now, the thing is this, once a particular cell has been influenced by our molecule and it's changed, then every consequent time it reproduces, like it becomes 2 DNA, it is carried on. So you don't have to change that, right? So the thing is this, we just have to get to a cell. We just have to get to some cell. Once we change it, then that's not a problem. Every time after that it propagates, it's going to continue normally. But to get to 7 billion cells is a long time. That's why we have to keep doing this over a point of time. But which also means that over a course of, let's say, 2 or 2.5 years, we might be able to meet 90% of the cells in the body, which means that it becomes more resilient. That is why our future thing is to start this as early as possible. Now, this kid is 18 years old, right? His heart and lungs have already suffered a lot. Hopefully, when the ICMR sees the results that we have from our next clinical trial, which has a little younger kids, like about 11 or 12, they finally say, okay, you can go for little kids. Then a kid who's like 3 or 4, who just has difficulty getting up, but can run, can walk, and all that kind of stuff. If we put him on a 2 or a 3 year therapy, then when he's about 6 or 7, he's 90% normal.
Wow.
And the best case scenario, which I genuinely wish we could do, but because of the billions of ethical issues are there, is to have this therapy at a fetal stage.
Wow.
Okay, so let's say there's a married couple, right? And the mother says that suddenly from a rural side, a mother comes and says, my mother's younger brother died when he was 11 years old and he couldn't walk. And we're like, wait a minute, your mother's younger brother, that means DMD. That means your mother could be a carrier. That means you could have that. Let's get you tested. And then we find out that she is a carrier of that gene. She's never suffered because she's just a carrier. But then there's a 50% chance of a kid, if it's a boy, having the same disease. Now, let's say that also comes true. And you have a kid who we have a genetic test and we know that that kid has DMD and we know exactly which exon at the fetal stage. If we could make a change to it, then the kid, when he's born without DMD. Of course, this is highly unethical and illegal as of now in India, right? We can't even, we can think about it, that's what I'm doing, but that is okay, this is where the problems come in. Is this right? If you can do this, what are other things you can do?
Yeah.
Then people start asking questions like,
can you make the kid stronger and all those kind of things? Super baby.
So that's the thing, when theoretically this is possible. Okay, this is the kind of stuff which I am also, where I have my difference of opinion with my friends and family and everybody else, is that when I was in school, I was a big fan of the X-Files and Star Trek and Star Wars. And when I read about DNA and RNA, it was science fiction to me, right? And now, just a few years later, very few years later, for those who are wondering about my age, I can say that I am part of this process, right? But having grown up with those hypothetical situations, I don't think of it as very different from the good that we can do. The problems are there, the inherent problems are there. But then what is the line? Where do we go? That is where the thing is. So, yeah, we are one of the very few people who have this conundrum right now, but we are not. That's a bridge we'll come to and we'll pass.
You said it's illegal. You said it's illegal in India, at least. Is there somewhere around the world that it is legal? I'm assuming Texas is not one of them.
Nice, very nice. Well, the thing is here's the thing, people don't realize that it can be done to have made it illegal, which is what the problem was in China. Right? So they have a couple of CRISPR-Cas9 babies who are immune to AIDS, but whose lives have been shortened because of this problem. It was not illegal because they didn't realize that
this could be a thing.
Yeah, and now it's illegal there.
Yeah.
Right? In India, it's illegal because of a very interesting rule. It's got nothing to do with DNA. It's got nothing to do with genetics. Do you know what that rule is?
You can't gender test a baby?
Exactly. Because of that. Because we know that it happens only in boys. Right? It's illegal to even reveal the gender of the baby before being born. So because of that particular rule itself.
Wow.
So it's a very...
Now that's like unseen, like Amit would say, right? That's like an unseen effect of what was supposed to be a good policy.
Yeah, so an archaic female infanticide rule stops us from doing all this, which is fine. Right now, even if I had the abilities, I can't do it. But
you can't do it, but
clinical trials.
But you can know the parents are potential carriers before
the mother. Yes, the mother. The thing is, we don't test the father because if a father has it, he's probably not going to be old enough to propagate. But there are very interesting things when you come to that. So this whole thing about X, this is a very India problem, which whenever I talk to other people in other countries, they're like, this is a problem for you? Is this? So it's X-linked, right? Now, you would understand, like a mildly educated people be like, okay, this is it. Here's the thing, in India, especially in lots of places that we go to, that kind of means that the problem is on the mother. So they take it as, oh, my wife is responsible for my kid being this way. And it causes a division there. So we are very, very careful about this. There have been multiple times where we have tried genetic counseling a parent and we never mentioned this ever. Because it's gone to weird places where even highly educated people, they come together and the father's like, oh, so it's my wife's fault that my kid is like this. I'm like, damn it, that's not where I was going with this. I just doing biology now. Why are you doing this? And here's the thing. this is true story. There's a village in Maharashtra, which I won't mention, which has let me go a little back. Now, I kept using the word rare disease. Yeah. Now, none of you asked me what is a rare disease, right? So a rare disease in this case is 1 in 3,500 boys are born with DMD. Now, in England, in Europe, and the US, that is according to the FDA and WHO, that's a rare disease. Now, 1 in 3,500 is the number of people who live in one gated apartment in Bangalore.
Yeah.
Okay, which is not rare, right? There are literally, if I look out here, I can see 3,500 people outside of my window, which would not happen in Europe and the US. So they call it a rare disease. Now, the Indian government follows WHO. Yeah. So they're like, yeah, 1 in 3,500, I don't care. They say it's a rare disease. It's a rare disease. Okay, so here's the thing. So your question would be, why are you guys the first one to do in the world? Why isn't somebody in the UK and US doing it? Because they don't have the number of people to do it on. The Australians and the Netherlands are like, we have 30 samples. We are the biggest. I mean, like, excuse me, we have 30 people in one mutation. We have 40,000 people in Karnataka alone. 40,000. Wow. They don't have 4,000 in the entire country. We have 40,000 in a state. And that is only as much as we know. There are probably kids in the rural. I'll tell you why. Because of two things. One is obviously population. Higher the population, more. Second is, it's a genetic disorder. And we are known for scrapping the bottom of the pool, right? Because consanguinity and all that kind of stuff. So there's an entire village in Maharashtra where, well, obviously, to maintain genetic purity. They marry between themselves. And long time back, somebody had DMD. So all the girls who were carriers, they had kids who were DMD. If they were a girl who was another carrier, they'll marry to another guy in the same neighborhood. Now, all the guys who had DMD, they would pass away. They wouldn't get to a marriageable age. But those who did survive married a girl who was a carrier, and they'll have a kid. Now, here's the thing. So people from the science industry went like, listen, guys, you got to stop this. Dude, like, chill. They were like, no. 5 years back, we were told that the curse has been put upon our village, and the local shaman said, you have 7 years of Sunny or Saturn, and this is what's going to happen. You will get guys who are like this. Don't worry, just keep having children. You will eventually have a boy who does not have DMD, and then you can marry it off. And now the entire village has got like a ridiculous 40% or 45% DMD running in there. Wow. And they're like, we have 2 more years of Sunny. After that, everything will be fine. I'm like, wow.
Just when you were talking about that gated colony thing, I remember a tweet that our good friend Abhishek Madan had put out a long time back. If you are 1 in a million, congratulations. There are 15 of you in Bangalore itself.
Yeah.
Let's take a quick break and we'll see you on the other side.
Hey everybody, it's been a great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On The Habit Coach, mythologist and author Devdutt Patnaik joins Ashton to talk about his latest book, How to Become Rich, 12 Lessons I Learned from Vedic and Puranic Stories. Check out how we can approach money and apply Vedic practices into our daily life. In the last episode of the season for Last Man Standing is the battle of the two-wheelers, Bajaj Auto versus Hero Honda with Anupam and Ambi. On Misconduct, Ragbi and Nisha tell us the chilling story of Shabnam and her lover Salim, who together killed 6 members of her family. On Yuddha, Aditya and Anirudh explore Sher Shah's journey of becoming the most powerful man in Hindustan. And on Marathi Kirkitun, Dr. Rajiv and Manik discuss author Vinda Karandikar's short essays and poetry. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. It really does help us. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors on the network this week, Cred, Bank of Baroda, Quota, CoinSwitch, Kuber, and Intel Vpro. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Welcome back. Yeah.
But, buddy, I want to ask a completely different question, which is that, I mean, the field that you're working in for all practical purposes from the outside sounds very depressing, right? Not just in the context of you're working on a very rare disease, but also you have to deal with bureaucrats who are not always the most understanding. I mean, you finished that story in 2 minutes, but I'm sure it took you years to get through the grant and, all of that process and stuff like that. Yet, you're so full of life, man. I mean, I want to just ask you that question, how do you
Now, before Berty answers, Tony, you're setting up yourself up, and now he's going to get all senti and say, this is where the work you guys come in. It's replayed. We listen to the episodes that you put out and the NH7 and the PPTs that you make, marketing strategy.
I already said that.
But
Let's not go back into that.
So you're not allowed to bullshit your way out of this. Give us an actual answer.
Yeah.
No, this is an actual answer. Okay, this is an actual answer. It's because of the people I work with. I'll tell you honestly. These kids, who I get to interact with. Okay, now they are all physically challenged. Right now, unfortunately, in India, we have this thing: if a kid is physically challenged, he's probably mentally challenged as well, which is the exact opposite of what happens. Okay, these kids, because they know they can't walk or run, their brains work at 4x or 5x. Every single kid that we have are gold medalists in normal schools. For example, the kid that I'm talking about who had that clinical trial, he finished school at DPS, normal school, where he was not given extra time, where he was not given special thing. Only thing they did specially for him was all the lab classes they had in ground floor to make sure he doesn't have to take the wheelchair up to the first floor. That's the only thing. He had a PG, at the end of it, he had a cumulative score CPA of 10 without rounding up.
Wow.
Without rounding up. He was crying one day and Akhila and I went like, hey, what happened? He's like, I got 99 out of 100. One mark where I missed, and I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? That kind of stuff. And all of them, they write poems. They would draw for hours on it. I mean, if they were normal, they would have drawn it in like about half an hour, but they'll take hours. But because they take that long, their finesse and attention to detail is more.
Wow.
So if you took a small painting, which a normal person has, and one of these kids, it'll be, I don't know how to express it. There's more detail because they can only move a little bit of a time, right? And some of them have blogs, some of them have YouTube channels on which they express themselves because they can't physically do it. And some of them play excellent video games. I mean, they beat me on everything, from NFS to FIFA because their hands, they can't use the legs, so their hands make up for it, right?
Wow, that's interesting. I would think that their reaction time and all that would actually be, the brain works.
Guess what? It's physiotherapy for them. We're one of the few people in the world who say, please play video games. The kid I'm talking about, do you know what was his physiotherapy? I convinced him to play. Okay, so he became a Linkin Park and Green Day fan. He once told me. And I told him, Green Day, Linkin Park, dude, you can play easily all the songs if you have like about 4 cards. He's like, okay, teach me. So I taught him. So he every day he has to do this, okay, to make sure that his muscles are fine. It's boring just sitting, doing this. But now that he knows the song, he's like, okay, F, D, E, A. And I taught him how to do this. So he's like A, E, D. Right. So every day he spends half an hour doing.
Amazing.
So he enjoys it, but it's physiotherapy.
Amazing.
Right. So it's quite inspiring to meet these kids also. And now for the bureaucrat part, I have been very lucky in meeting quite a number of bureaucrats who understand. For example, Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, right? She's now chief scientist of WHO, but she sat down with us, had filter coffee, and she was asking us about things. And, one of those people who said, okay, no, we'll get it done. The government of Karnataka has been like very helpful as well. And I've met lots of people who truly want to do something different and have helped us getting there. Of course, we have gone through lots of tough times. Yeah, I will not say. I mean, we still are. There are things that we were not privy to, which is slowing us down. Very, very unnecessary things. Okay, but the thing is, I know that we have something in hand which can change the lives of a few people, and we're working towards that. So that is one thing. And the other thing, of course, is because as the interview started, my life in this place started, I have access to music all the time. So like it's literally, I go at work and I'm like, okay, what's going to happen today? I'm going to write a grant. And every other day I'll be like, okay, today is Pineapple Thief. Put it on, start writing. And I don't know. It's just like, Bruce Sood is helping me write a grant. Yeah. Bruce, if you're listening to this, yes, thank you, Bruce.
Amazing.
I'm sure he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like it's just incredible to meet somebody who enjoys what they do and finds so much joy and mission out of it. Like, and I was just, when you were saying all this, I was just remembering Naren and Tony. The last guest that we formally had on Simplified was a doctor as well. Who was talking about anesthesia and all that he had to go through during the time of COVID. So yeah, fascinating. Yeah. Yeah, I don't have any really
Yeah.
follow-up questions post
I know,
that.
it just reminds me of another. We did an episode on this. Tony did an episode on Viktor Frankl's book,
Yeah.
Man's Search for Meaning, and the basic point of the book is that if you know, or if you have a meaning to your life, that gives you the will to live and do things. And if you lose that meaning, it usually crumples you inside and you die. And he was talking in context of Nazi concentration camps and things like that. But the principle is general. A lot of us, we derive meaning from what we do.
Yeah.
And when that happens, you are very enthusiastic and gives you a great deal of energy. And not everyone is lucky, but you evidently are. I mean, it's just luck, right? It's
Absolutely,
just luck.
I agree.
Yeah. You could be in a field which you hated, and no way of getting out of it. Yeah.
Okay, so we all know the butterfly effect, right? Like one small thing that's happened. So I can tell you the butterfly effect for this whole thing happening was Die Hard 2.
Wow.
I did not expect that.
Did not expect.
I mean, of
long
all the
visual
podcasts.
connect.
Lovely.
LVC, long visual connect. So I can go further back to weird things, but I know specifically it's this because after I finished my master's, I went to Chennai to do my internship, right? And there I joined a small research lab which was working on diabetes. And there I met at that time a PhD student called Arun Shastri, not doctor, just normal Arun Shastri, and he was in the nearby lab. And I was in Mall Bio lab. He was in biochemistry lab, and he was a super senior who was supposed to make sure all the interns are doing their job properly. So I was one of those interns. And one day we do something called PCR, which is polymerase chain reaction. It's basically a Xerox machine for DNA. You put in a small bit of DNA. 3 hours later, you get 30 million copies of it. Okay, but for 3 hours, you put the machine on and you chill. Yeah. So
code is compiling.
Yeah, code is compiling. Exactly.
Pretty much. So one day he's in the nearby, and his interns at that time were 2 girls. Okay, and then I was in the next lab. As he comes up to me like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I have a PCR on." He said, "Listen, I have 2 tickets to Die Hard 2, which is in Satyam Cinema, which is across the road in Chennai. Okay, it'll take about 90 minutes. Right? You are under my, literally, you are supposed to be. I want to go alone, but you're not doing anything. Do you want to go alone?" I was like, "Okay, sir. Yes, sir. I'll come, sir." Okay. So I put the PCR on and we walk across the road, grabs popcorn, go into Satyam, sit in the last row, Die Hard 2 starts. And about 30 minutes when both of us are like, "Oh, okay, what's Gruber doing?" All that kind of stuff. He gets a call from the HOD. Okay. She's like, "Arun, where are you? We need you here." He's like, "Ma'am, I'm in the bathroom. I will come," something like that. And he's like, what do you do?" I'm like, "Listen, we had to get out." I'm like, "There's an emergency," so all this kind of stuff. So I help him get out of the situation. Then we rush out of the movie. We run across, and he's like, "Listen, I need you to distract her while I go in and I come in front." And I'm like, "Okay, we shall do that." So I go in the front. I'm like, "Ma'am, I have a doubt," and I keep asking something, and he walks around, comes back, comes in, and is like, and she's like, "Arun, where's the document that you wanted me to sign?" "Ma'am, it's on your table." "Okay, thank you, Arun. You can go." But then we can't get back into the movie now. Right?
Yeah.
So we had like 30 minutes to kill. So he's like, "Berty, thank you so much, man. Okay, you know what? I'll buy you a coffee at least. Come, let's go." And we sat down and we talked. And when we talked, we found out more about me. And we were like, "Okay, this is what I do." He's like, "Oh, you listen to Floyd?" And I was like, "I'm a big Floyd fan." He's like, "Oh, I know some Floyd and all." And we started talking. Then we talked about science. And he found out that he and I have the same. Now, after that, we went our ways. He went to Karolinska and he got his PhD from Karolinska, the university that gives the Nobel Prizes. And I went back my own way. Many years later, when we had diverged and he had gone somewhere else, we lost touch and everything. On Facebook, you say "Happy birthday," that's it. That's it. Then he called me one day and said, "Hey, I have to go to Australia. I saw your Facebook update. You're in Chennai. Do you want to meet for an interview?" And that's where that happened. And that's why we are in DART right now. And to further this, both of us did not see the ending of the movie. I still don't know what happened to Die Hard.
I think that's a very poignant way to end the whole thing.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
How serendipitous things can just,
Although
but just on that point, I just want to say it's not just luck, right? Because the point of Viktor Frankl's book is that everyone was in that same position by a twist of fate.
Yeah.
But some people actually, with their outlook, change their fortunes.
Like
And
not
that's
every,
what I, that's
not
what I want to
everyone
learn
would have
from
been
Berty.
as spunky as you to distract the
exactly.
senior professors while he went back. Not
No,
everybody
also-
would have been, willing to.
Not everyone who would have got into this into your position would have felt inspired to do something, because it's all tricks that the mind plays, right? So,
and it's very easy to say, right? Like, I mean, the other way to look at it is these are extremely talented kids, but they'll never live a full life, and you can just be like completely depressed at the thought of such.
I'll tell you one more thing, which I've discovered only last few years. Which I also, if there are students who are watching this, by some chance, if somebody is watching this as a student and wants to think about life as a researcher, the main reason why I could take this decision was because I was not interested in the amount of money that was coming in, right? Because the first thing that Arun told me was, we are working on grants. In India, okay, I'm just putting it out there, okay, if you are a researcher in India, okay, the biggest money that you can get is from the ICMR, a CSIR, or senior research fellows, or grants, or a stipend. Okay, if you're the best, if you do every exam brilliantly and you go through an entire system, you get a JRF or an SRF, you will get 25 or 27K in your hand per month. Okay, if you're an SRF and you do brilliant and you're one of the best, you'll get 36,400 rupees. Now you are getting 36,400 and you talk to another friend of yours, a classmate who's doing something in IT or CA, they're going to be talking about 3x, 4x amount that money, right? So obviously when you're thinking about your situation, if you're thinking about financial situations, you're not going to go into research at that point of time. But here's my point. Okay, the thing is, there are certain things that you get out of it, which you will probably, like I said, the work satisfaction, all that kind of stuff. And the fact that you're doing something in research which will help people. Like, honestly speaking right now, the reason why you said I have multiple hats is because also I have to do those things to kind of, if I have to pay 2K for a vinyl like this, it's not going to work on my stipend. Right. So I have to do other things. I have to do quizzing. I have to do other things, which also I can do to supplement myself to make sure that I do well. So I have to put it out there, because it might seem all rosy and all, but it's not. And I have been very, very lucky. I've been very, I have to say, very Douglas Adams, type, to be in the right place at the right time, to have been given this opportunity to do this. So I have to say, that is a caveat. I have to put it out there. This is not something that would work out for everyone else. So there you go.
But then not everyone else is invited to speak on Simblified, are they? Yes. We haven't had anyone to come on to talk about how they make PPTs, till now at least. We get real desperate, maybe we might, but not right now. That was amazing, Berty. I think we could easily go on talking for another couple of hours on this alone, let alone all your other interests. But thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
This is.
I think we have to take multiple hats off to you.
Thanks, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure and an honor. Bucket list. Now, can I add to my
Are we part of your bucket list? Wow, you really need to change your.
I'm literally adding it to the CV. Was featured on Simplified 227.
Please do not. No. For goodness sake, you are better off saying that you distracted a senior researcher while somebody put that as a CV point. Oh goodness, I never thought Simplified would ever make it to anybody's CV as a point, but no, please don't, Berty. Naren, I think
thanks,
it's
guys.
time to. I think
it's time to wind up.
And
so part of Simplified tradition, I always say some silly stay safe message. So my stay safe message is stay safe, stay molecular, and stay simplified.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Berty, once again.
Bye.
Hi everybody, just wanted to ask everyone for a quick favor. We're running a brand survey right now and would really appreciate it if you could let us know what you think about the advertising on IVM. Go to ivmpodcast.com/survey and do let us know. As part of this, we'll be selecting 10 random participants and sending them some IVM swag, so do fill out those surveys.
Have you ever wondered where the business world is headed? How the ways in which we create, market, and sell to consumers will evolve? Or if we'll ever go back to wearing pants while working? For answers to all of this and more, tune into Advertising is Dead with me, Varun Dugirala. Every Tuesday, as I talk to entrepreneurs, leaders, and change makers from across business, media, marketing, and beyond. You can catch all episodes of Advertising is Dead on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcast from.